Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain, co-host, here with Joe Daniel, as always.
What's up, Coach?
Coach, it's been exactly like 12 hours since we last recorded, so that's fun. A little longer than that. We're into the afternoon now, but back-to-back days is awesome for the podcast. I like recording, so I'm used.
Getting it back. Yeah, I enjoy the recording. It's a little bit different in the middle of the day.
Yeah, cold beers aren't as...
Nah, I can't. Yeah. Can't justify that.
Just a podcast, right?
Yeah. Not on a Wednesday.
Gotta have coherent thoughts.
We were doing a Sunday afternoon podcast, maybe.
There we go.
Mow the lawn first.
The day drinking podcast. I'm in for it. Power minute real quick today, right now, we're talking developing athleticism. I'm sure you saw the title, gaining or building that speed and athleticism and explosion. So today we're going to talk about football speed training progression, how to coach running mechanics without being a speed guru. I should air quotes maybe. And then, because there's a lot of those, develop skills for on-field football speed. So really football-specific speed, explosion, agility, all the good things. Last week, we talked about we get killed in the screen game, some ways that you can help defend screen game. Next week, we can't convert on 3rd and long. I really look forward to that one because I always think about there's no good play call on 3rd and 15. Like, there's not one, not in the whole entire playbook. So if there was, you would just call it on 1st and 10 and never be in 3rd and 15. It'd be great.
It'd be a lot easier to execute it. Yeah.
For sure. Before we get rolling here, coaches, a quick reminder, the best way to say thanks for the podcast is to share it. Please send out this episode or any other ones that you've kind of, gravitated towards over the last 10, 15, 20, how many years? What, you're going on year 15 now, right?
This will be year 15 of the Football Coaching Podcast. Yeah. Well, 14. Sorry, 14.
Okay. There you
January 2012.
Send those things to another coach, a football parent, anyone who wants to get better. Just found I screwed up my document. There we go. Let's pay the bills real quick, Joe, and we will get started.
All right. Difference between a defense that wins championships and one that gives up big plays every Friday night is not talent. It is the system. If you don't have a real system in place, you spend every week chasing problems. Your players are confused, your coaches aren't aligned, and your defense is reacting instead of attacking. I've worked with over 10,000 football coaches, and the biggest mistake that I see them making is overcomplicating the game. You're running a stack of plays that don't work with each other. You have front stunts, blitzes, and coverages, but no real plan behind it. And when you try to install a true defensive system, everything changes. Your players play faster, your coaches call with confidence, and you start winning football games. To make that happen, I created a free guide called What You Need to Know to Build the Ultimate Defensive Football Coaching System. It is a blueprint to simplify your defense, get your players to buy in, and take control of the game. You can get a free copy right now at footballdefense.com and start building your ultimate defensive system today. Again, just go to footballdefense.com, put your email in there, and we will send you the free download of the What You Need to Know to Build Your Ultimate Defensive Football Coaching System now.
Love it. Athletic Speed and Movement. This whole episode is going to be about athleticspeedandmovement.com. So it'll be a great introduction into what you can find over at the website. However, jump over today. You can sign up and get a 12-week program, 2 days a week. And I highly recommend you get in now, early this is probably mid-December by now, but give you a couple weeks to read through, understand the PDFs, see where your coaching points are before you get started in January when all your kids come back. This is a system that was built by Dale Baskette. He was the very first speed coach in the NFL. The guy's been doing it since the 70s. He has evolved and evolved and evolved again, and he has the best system on the market. athleticspeedmovement.com. Jump over there and sign up today. Part 1. Football speed training progression is where we're going to start today, Joe. I know that with a lot of coaches, we really think about our football, right? We install things on an install schedule. We have a progression. You can't teach, all your shifts and motions before you get a base formation. You can't teach all your tags until you get a base run play or a base pass play. So having a progression in place for your speed training, I feel like also is a great way to do things. It's pretty natural learning progression as well. So let's talk about how we can gain speed and explosion and agility and all the good things by using a speed training progression.
Yeah, so I think, first of all, everything that I have to say is going to be based on what I've learned from Dale Baskette. Dale was not, I didn't get a chance to talk to Dale about jumping on here, but Dale had some stuff going on. We haven't gotten to talk a whole lot. in the last couple weeks. But so everything I say is what I've learned from Dale. I know I won't say it all exactly right. The idea of a progression in your speed training. I see so many coaches who are like, yeah, we do the A skips, B skips, and we do the hurdle stretchy thingies, and we do this and we do that. And it's almost like you're doing everyday drills. Well, we go out and we do A skips every day. Well, number one, if you've ever seen a kid do an A skip on a football field, I hope you benched him. And by the way, I don't know the difference between A skips and B skips, to be honest with you. I haven't done it so long. We don't skip. We do things that happen on a football field.
Right.
That goes from my entire philosophy, drill philosophy. If you've been inside JDFB, I love offensive line, and I don't want anything to do with a sled. I don't use boards. I don't use anything. I don't use chutes for defensive linemen because there's no chutes on the field, and I don't really feel like knocking a kid out just because he stands up in his stance. We do things that happen on a football field, and the things that don't happen on a football field are either you're wasting your time. There's two different things that can happen with drills. One is and I don't want to say you're wasting your time with every drill, because just as an example, Dale teaches three core principles: line, sink, strike. And that is what everything is built on. And the whole progression is built on establishing the whole initial core progression is about that line, sink, strike. The line of the body, the sinking of the shoulders and the arms control of the legs, and the sink there, and the strike of the foot, the midfoot into the ground, transferring power into the ground. And Dale told me, and I'm not going to get this exactly right because we've only had this conversation like once, but his mentor had 5 core principles. And his mentor was correct. And it was essentially, I want to say that it was essentially like, running with parachutes and running with bands, right? Acceleration, deceleration type stuff, drag and whatever. And what Dale realized is, taking that from the track world, that's great for elite sprinters. But for football players, it didn't have enough of it. We talk about 80-20 type things.
Right.
It didn't have enough of an impact that it was worth putting those 5 principles in, and that you got most of the benefit that you could get in, whether it's 60% of the time or 40% of the time or whatever half the time, whatever it is, a much smaller amount of time, you got most of the benefit from the 3 core principles and focusing on those in your progression. And so it is about doing the things, figuring out the things that matter. And frankly, you shouldn't listen to any football coach tell you these are the things that matter. Dale has a background in track, but also in football. But more importantly, 46, I think, is what we decided on, going into 47 years of experience doing this. Now, again, he had a mentor. So where it started wasn't bad, but it's just gotten better and better and better and better. And he has so much knowledge and so much understanding of the human body and how it works and performance and what translates to a football field, working with everything from youth athletes to NFL All-Pros and Hall of Famers. Like, that's something that a football coach doesn't have. You can't. We don't have time. You can't learn playbooks and systems and all of these things and then also be a speed guru and also be a weightlifting guru. But we all have tried to do it. When you realize you don't need to do all these things, you'll be much, much better off. When you start getting knowledge from other people, it's essentially, if you go out and you try to create this thing, or you try to go to a track coach and then translate that all from a new, when you can go to somebody who has 46 years of experience at the highest levels, but also working with your guys and working with high school type guys, and he has high schools that brought him in for a decade every single year, and like it's not like the program changes necessarily. He has new ideas and new things that he implements, but honestly, after 4 years, right, it's all new.
Right.
So then
Recycling.
you start him over, but it's such a there's such a level of understanding and knowledge that comes with that, and honestly authority, that bringing somebody in like that who has an established progression is just starting on third base. I mean, it's and why do you want to start? It's the same thing with football coaches who come to me, and there a lot of new coaches will say this to me. But the thing is, only new coaches generally say this because they haven't fallen on their face. But I hear coaches say this about speed, and they've got 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, 40 years of experience. New coaches will come to me and say, I'm working on creating my offensive playbook or creating my system. Don't do that. No, I'm going to help you. Stop. And I will tell them, it doesn't need to be my system. But the worst thing you can do is create your system, because it's going to be fundamentally broken. And everyone who has a system, whether it's me, whether it's Tony Franklin, whether it's Kenny Simpson, whether it's Rick Stewart, no matter who it is. I just talked to a coach, Hugh Wyatt, double wing. Like, good Lord, 100 years of experience behind the thing. Like, it's not 100, but it's not far. If you want to know for sure, go back in the archives, because we had 2 episodes of Hugh Wyatt just going through his biography years ago. The thing is, most, not all, a lot of the kinks have been worked out. Mine came from Bill Mountjoy. I didn't invent this, offensively. I didn't come up with the pistol power offense system. Defensively, mostly from TCU, Gary Patterson. Now, you meld it with other things and you apply it to other things, but the core is there and the core is done. So what Dale figured out, and again, Dale had mentors too, but what Dale figured out was how to take somebody from zero. So you've got the kid. I had a dad one time who said this to me. He was a football coach, but he was a son who was an air quotes athlete, who was younger, like 7th or 8th grade, middle school kid. And he was getting the program for his football players, but he was like, I also want to run this with my players, with my son. And he was like, I'm just embarrassed when he runs, to third, to first base in baseball. It's like he doesn't know how to run. Dale created a progression that takes kids, whether they are elite football players, great speed. We had a kid that was, the fastest kid I've ever coached. When the first time that we brought Dale in, years and years ago, fastest kid I've ever coached. It had almost as much impact on him as it did on the offensive lineman who was couch potato and had no idea how to run. Because, the one kid went from a 6'0" to a 5'2", right? It's like, that's significant. But the other kid went from, I don't know what the numbers are, but, going from a 4'6" to a 4'5", going through. And of course, these numbers are all like, at that point, like, what's accurate and what do those numbers really mean? But also Dale's system, I say that just because that's a measuring stick that we all have. It's not about linear 40-yard dash speed. It was about the impact that it had on a kid who had incredible straight line speed, and teaching him how to translate that to a football field.
Yeah.
Where he had to accelerate, decelerate, change direction, small space, adjust to a football. Just there's so much stuff that, like, in this progression that comes into play. So Dale, over 46 years, has developed a progression that will take a kid, because if you just start running speed drills with a kid, that's not going to mean anything. These drills look goofy. The first 3 weeks, 4 weeks of the progression, you're like, I've had so many times where we've started installing this, and the first 3 weeks we're doing. So just to give you an idea, we do a sprint walk where it's a walk, and they're just getting the rhythm of the shoulders, and they're learning to keep the angle in the elbows, keep the elbows at 90, keep the hands with the thumb down, the hands are, and have that movement in the shoulders, and they're just learning that, and it's just like the step one of the progression, right? And then they start to work on a short cycle where they're doing real short, real quick, and it looks ridiculous. And then they're doing, they're doing these things that look goofy, honestly. You don't understand how this is going to all come together, because nobody does the fast short cycle for 20 yards or whatever it is in a game. But you're putting the link in, and I don't know all the science behind it, but you're putting the link in where, by the way, that is what you do when you decelerate, and then you start to combine them. And so it builds where we go from the kid's walking for a little bit, and then he's like doing this fast shuffling thing, and you don't really understand what's happening there. And then you don't understand how it's all happening. And then you start to combine it together, and you start to see where one thing, you start to add multiple things into a drill, and you transition from one to another in the middle of the drill. And the transition is teaching them how to keep their hips up. And I don't want to go into all of it because it's not going to make sense. But every single time that I've ever run it, a coach, 2 coaches, 3 coaches, like 4 or 5 weeks in, will just be like, okay. Like, I thought this was stupid, but now I see it. About 4 or 5 weeks in, you see it, and you see how all of it comes together. Because a progression shouldn't start out looking great.
Right.
It shouldn't. If the progression starts out looking great, what the hell are you progressing to? You're already there. The progression should build to something that, all of a sudden, just like over the course of a few weeks, you're like, wow. And then you get into week 9, 10 it's a 12-week speed core progression is the start. And you get into week 9 or 10, and there's always, with what we do, there's always a few kids that don't make it all. They don't show up all the time, right? They're here and there. So they show up, and you're like, I don't have time to start this kid on week 1. You go through the motions, because you're probably not going to be, it's the kid who never shows up. A young kid just showed up, and you're like, we'll fix it later. You should show me that you're going to be here consistently, and we'll but like for now, just get in line. And they can't do any of it. They can't do any of it because you can't start on week 10. You can't do it. You have to start on week 1. And the kids who are on week 10 started at week 1, and they're 10 weeks in, and you see them doing these things that, I don't know, it doesn't seem that difficult, I guess. But you see them doing it, and how athletic and how fluid they look. And then you see a kid who just walked in the door, and he literally can't do it. I remember when we first put together Athletic Speed and Movement, I just wanted to get some drill film of a lateral series. I forget the name of it. One of Dale's,
like the shuffle, like a lateral.
It's one of the higher level series. And we had done the speed training, but not correctly, before kind of connected back with Dale and got everything right. And I was like, and we hadn't kept it up. We hadn't done the in season. We hadn't done all that. We just kind of did a sloppy job with it. Honestly, with this program, there were kids who were new to it. Like 3 kids who had been through it the year before, but they, really hadn't, and we hadn't kept it up. And I asked them to do these couple of drills, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. And then 12 weeks later, they had finished the core progression correctly, having what we have in Athletic Speed and Movement now, with all the drill video and the install and all of the teaching points from Dale. And it was just like night and day. We're not talking about unathletic kids. We're talking about extremely athletic kids who, are now very good players for other teams. Thanks. But not all of them. But the progression takes you from, and it takes every athlete, and it takes them from like not it doesn't matter where they start, or it doesn't matter what they started with, I guess I should say. A good progression takes kids wherever they're starting at, puts them into week one, and everybody is broken down essentially to
Taking the
core
words right out of my
components,
mouth, Joe. That's what I was going to say.
and then rebuild.
Yeah.
And that's what a progression should look like. And for some reason, we don't do that with speed, right? What do we do with speed? Send them the track coach. Track coach goes out there, and what does the track coach do? Does A skips, B skips, and stuff like that? And does that help with track? I have no clue. None. Really doesn't freaking matter to me, because track isn't football. And he goes out and he sprints and he sprints and he sprints. And guys will come up with their own sprint program, and they'll be like, we sprint. We do 10 yards and we do this, and we do that. But he never learns how to run. This absolutely breaks their entire form and mechanic down and teaches them how to run, not in like a classroom concept of teaching them how to run. It literally like rewires their brain for how running works, and not just running, not sprinting, but accelerating, decelerating, changing directions, lateral, everything. That's a progression. And this one is the best. So, is this an advertisement for athletic speed and movement? No, except for the fact that nobody else has this. So,
That's right.
If anybody else had it, great. But I don't think anybody else does.
I love thinking about this as the progression, because, tying it back to football, think about when you learned zone blocking or you learn gap scheme or whatever, right? No one can just tell you, turn on Alex Gibbs, and that's how you coach outside zone. Like, you can't do that, right? You don't know any of the stuff before. What the hell is an offensive lineman's, what is he supposed to look like, right? What's his stance supposed to look like? Why? How are they communicating before the ball's ever hiked? How much time can you spend learning out the fundamentals of outside zone before you get to let Terrell Davis run the football and then you look really good? Not a shot at Coach Gibbs. Definitely one of the best to do it, in my opinion. But
I don't know if Terrell Davis is Terrell Davis without Alex Gibbs, but that's
right.
Story.
So sometimes you just got to have that magic match. But the point is, you got to start
pretty good
way before that, right? I can remember when I got into ball and I was trying to learn it, and I called who was then the OC for Broken Arrow and was like, teach me outside zone. And we started with like covered and uncovered, right? There's all these things that go into it. So when
do what? Skipped a lot of steps as far as taking a nobody, right?
Yeah, for sure. Right. And that was still dragging him backwards to try to figure out how to teach me zone scheme blocking. But we have to start there with every kid. We got to back up all the way. And you got to make yourself, as a coach, you may not know what the fundamentals look like of teaching running, and that's okay. Probably no one taught. It's a lot like leadership we talk about on here sometimes, right? You've never been taught these things before, so you don't know. And that's why getting into a program with progression is so good. You have to understand where your kids are right now.
Leadership is a great example, by the way, because what do people, you can't teach leadership and you can't teach speed, and they're both lies.
Yeah.
Both lies from lazy coaches, honestly.
That's 100%. You got to figure out where your kids are, and you got to meet them there. And that might be my 7-year-old, who I'm kind of embarrassed to watch him run and need to put him through athletic speed and movement.
I feel the same about my 3-year-old.
My 4-year-old I have no qualms. He is going to be a dude. But kids at the point that if you're a high school coach, a middle school coach, junior high coach, they don't know. They have no perception of where their body is, right? We talk about this a lot, but body awareness or body perception is not a thing they have. They're still awkward around other humans because like just standing there is weird. You know what I mean? Like they're definitely not going like, hey, how did I look when I ran? No, they're not going to ask that because it's probably embarrassing. So you've got to break them down. You've got to start at point zero with all of them and teach them where their body is. And you can't do that by starting with line up and run. It's not a thing, right? You have to, from the beginning, from their stance, starting to run has to be perfect. You start with the line, sink, strike. Just line alone is not most of them. What do most of them do? They want to get in a sprinter stance and they want to have a hand on the ground and then their knee is forward and so now their line's all screwed up. Or they want to bend over at the waist because
that's what they see on TV.
That's what they see. Okay. So you've got to get them, you have to start all the way back. Where the heck are their hands while they're running? I can remember we had a kid my first year coaching that like he had one arm that when he ran kicked way out. Oh, and I know you guys are listening, can't see this, but it was like this huge 90-degree lift. He elevated it to 90 degrees to bring his arm forward. Well, the school I was at was a huge cross country thing, and all they cared is you could run far. They didn't care what you looked like. Do it as comfortable as possible. You have to break a ton of tendencies that other coaches didn't know what they were doing, got started, and let them exist with, right? You think about a quarterback's throwing motion. A lot of the times at the high school level, you say just roll the balls out and whoever can throw it is who was our quarterback, because I don't have time nor the experience nor resources to teach a kid to reset his throwing motion. I just can't do it. You need to do that in running, though. We have the progression that gives you the time to do that with everybody on your team at the same time. So it's not like dedicating all this time to one kid's throwing motion.
Yep.
You're resetting your offensive lineman's running, your tight ends, your linebackers, your safeties. Everyone can benefit from resetting to zero and then getting built up in the correct way to run. And at a very, very important time in their life. You're going to set them up for success way later in life because you're teaching them about this body awareness. So I think that's a great time to start. It's a great way to do it is with this progression. Get them all reset at zero, take them where they need to be. As we get into part 2 here, Joe, we're going to talk about running mechanics and teaching that without being a speed guru. Like we just said, we're not speed gurus. You're not. I'm not. Dell is very much so in multiple sports now, but it kind of all gets tied back to the football specific, which I don't want to get too far on that because that's our third point, but he teaches you through athletic speed and movement. He can teach you the things that you need to be coaching, the coaching points. I'm not a gap scheme guru either, right? But I've gone through the JDFB pistol power offense. I've gone through the gun tee. I've even read through the air raid and a bunch of other stuff to where I've developed my coaching points that I'm going to make as my foundation, my fundamentals. And now I know how to solve problems within gap scheme football. That's what this running mechanics coaching is too. You have to problem solve as you see these oddball things pop up. How do you fix them? After you've started at zero and you've taught them the right way, how am I coaching them along the way? So, Joe, how does athletic speed movement really help us become that, not a speed guru, but a coach that can coach the mechanics?
We figured out years ago, actually 2 podcasts in a row, I'll talk about Coach Mills at Dinwiddie, and Coach Mills has been tremendously successful there for almost 20 years now. And I remember, I knew where he came from and a little bit about him. I knew some of the guys on his staff, and I remember we did like a weightlifting competition. It wasn't powerlifting exactly. It was like a football, it was just a local, like 3 or 4 local schools just to get together, give the kids something to do with their weightlifting. And I remember that he, at that time, I don't know what he does now, but at that time he had hired a guy from, a trainer from Richmond, right? And the guy drove all the way down and when he's 45 minutes or whatever from Richmond. And so it was the big city, I guess. And one of our coaches asked him, like, why do you hire this guy? Like, you know what you're doing. Like, you know how to coach a weight room, right? As good as we do. And it was funny because the actual where I learned the coach experts thing was he said, yeah, but it's like, I don't remember exactly how I said it, but it was essentially, it's like, listening to your dad, right? When you're a teenager, your dad, like, doesn't matter how much he knows or how much he's done. Like, no teenager wants to listen to what their dad has to say.
100%.
Right? He's like, I bring in this guy from the big city, and he comes down and he's got his t-shirts and he's got he's got all of his tricks and gimmicks. And I think he even said, like, I don't even think he's that good, but kids are like, oh, he's special. And that was where the higher experts thing started to pop into my head. And then I went out and found guys that I thought were special. to be the expert. And so for JDFP weight room, that's Chris Lawyer. And then for athletic speed and movement, that's Dale Baskette. Guys who Malcolm Gladwell, 10,000 hours to be an expert, right? If you have 10,000 hours in football coaching, you're an expert in football coaching. By the way, it's a lot of hours if you start doing the math. These guys, you know, when I started talking to Chris about it, he had, 20 or 30,000 hours, and now he's got, 10 more years of it. So he's, I don't know how many hours. Yes, a lot more than 20, a lot more than 10, I can tell you that. And Dale is, his odometer's rolled over multiple times. So like these are true, legitimate experts. And when I present it to the kids, I have a little bit of an advantage in that I know these people personally.
Right.
And I can talk about what they say and what they've done and what their background is and who they are and why we went out and found the best. And we tell the story of why they're the best and sell them on that. And then put them into the progression. And we talk about the experience that we've had with it too. And don't try to claim. I think the worst thing that you can do is pretend you are a weight room expert or pretend you are a speed expert or pretend you are a football expert and then get caught in the lie.
Right.
Because and you very likely will get caught in the lie because you'll run into a situation where you don't have the answers. And instead, when you essentially are advertising yourself as I hire the people, I go out and find the people. When I say hire, I don't mean hire them to come out and I mean get their program, get their information, get all their stuff. Because most of us can't hire a speed coach or a strength coach or any of that stuff like to literally be on staff, right? But hiring an expert who has the 10,000, 20,000, 40,000 hours, 100,000 hours of expertise, who has been making adjustments, making tweaks, solving problems. It's no different than an offensive or a defensive system. If you change your system every single year, you don't know how to adjust it. You don't know how to fix it. You don't know how to correct it. But if you run the same thing for 30 years and a defense gives you a new alignment, it's not new. There's almost nothing that you haven't seen. And so hiring experts is a very good core philosophy that any coach should adopt. You don't need to become, just to your example, I'm not an expert on quarterback mechanics. I never have been. I never will be. If we have someone on staff who knows quarterback mechanics, they become the quarterback coach. If we don't, I try to get them into camps and get them into clinics. And again, I find the kid who throws the ball the best to begin with. I do know about quarterback reads and progressions and all of that stuff because that's our offensive system. But as far as the mechanics of a quarterback, how am I going to learn everything there is to know about offensive line and then learn everything there is to know about throwing quarterback? How to throw a ball and then everything there is to know defensively and all that sort of stuff. And quarterback mechanics is the one that I've always just been like, I'll send him to a camp. First of all, I'll take the one who already knows how to throw. And then I'll send them to camps. I'll get them to clinics. And I'll hopefully have coaches on staff who do have that shot in their bag. Because we're our football coaches. We should ideally have somebody on staff who knows that. But
for sure,
if we don't, we don't. So, I mean, just hire go out and we kill ourselves with this stuff. We're like, I'm going to make a speed program. I'm going to make a weightlifting. Coaches are terrible about weight room.
Quit creating stuff.
Coaches are terrible. But yeah, stop creating stuff. Stop. It's not our job. Your job is not to, like, we have this weird thing, and I did it too. That's not our job. Our job is to win football games. Our job is to mentor kids. Our job is to, it's not our job to create the playbook. It's not our job to come up with the weightlifting program. It's not our job to make up a speed program. If you're doing those things, you're doing a crappy job of them. You can't. Go find somebody. If you want to run the wing tee, find somebody who knows the wing tee. And I will have guys be like, wow, I promise you, it will become yours.
Right.
If you run the pistol power offense system, I learned everything that I know from Bill Mountjoy, and I can tell you right now that by the last couple of years of Bill Mountjoy watching my film, he absolutely hated half the stuff that I did because it just evolved to different stuff. I promise you that if Gary Patterson watched my 4-2-5 defense, he would be like, what the frick is this? And I would be like, what the frick is that? Because I've seen Gary Patterson's defense, 20 years after what I studied. And I was like, what is that?
He's
I remember
changed,
Ricky,
right?
huh?
He's changed too, right?
He
Like
evolved too.
people evolve.
Because I remember when Ricky was at, when Ricky Kuhn, who's been on the podcast, is at Southeast Missouri. I want to say it was when he first went to Southeast Missouri. I think they played TCU, like a opening game of the season. And he sent me they got film, and he sent it to me on Huddle. So, and I was like, I was all excited. I'm like, I'm going to have this great all 22 film with great looking film of TCU. And I watched it and I was like, it was so far. And this is probably, I don't know, not that long ago.
Right.
But it was so far removed from what I had been studying of TCU. And like I'd found videos of Gary Patterson breaking down film from 2005 or something. And this is 10 years later. And it's like, this is not the same defense. It evolves. We all evolve. None of us stay in our thing. It's like,
that's why we call it coaching trees, right? It's not a straight line. It's not a 2x4 of coaching knowledge. It's you all do your own thing, man, and you learn from. And so we can do the same thing with the speed stuff.
I wouldn't on that. I would run the speed program. Because but why? Because we're becoming football experts, right? Speed wise, weight room wise, we should just run what the expert's telling us to do. And maybe you decide you need a different expert. I don't know, but you start to combine those things together. It's because we're football coaches. I think it's an important difference. Is like I can combine 2 or 3 different. I always talk. I've had a couple coaches who are just football junkies. They're constantly studying, constantly learning. And I have multiple coaches recently who've been like, I don't know what to do with all that stuff. And it's like, you've got to have a core, base of this. And then you can pull an idea from here and an idea from there and put them in. But we can do that because we have a core and a base of being a football coach. We're not speed coaches. We're not weight room coaches. There aren't many people who have more experience in a weight room than me. And I run what my expert says to run. And every time that someone has come in and messed with it, it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
And if somebody comes in and messes with Dale's speed progression, now where this all comes together is I'm not going to mess with Dale's speed progression, but I'm going to learn, and I have learned from him how it translates to the football field. And that's where I take that and I say, this is how you use this core speed. Speed is not the word, by the way. Speed is it's agility. This applies to all of your players. And so I talk about this with my offensive linemen in how they're pulling and how they're like, if I'm skip pulling, it's a lateral run to essentially a sprint, right? A controlled sprint. So it's a lateral run transitioning to acceleration. And then there's deceleration and there's engaging in the block. And that all happens in the course of 3 steps lateral, acceleration through the hole to the aiming point, deceleration to engage in the block. That's what's being taught in this athletic speed and movement, is the movement of a football player on the field. And how do I incorporate line sync strike that I learned in that progression? How do I incorporate that into a skip pull?
Yeah.
How do I incorporate that into a horn pull to go kick out a corner? How do I incorporate that into an outside zone run where the back has to make the cut? And those are the things that both Dale has progressions, like more advanced progressions that get more into the nitty gritty of that. But once you have the core, you can translate that. And so I can translate, here's where you use that power clean strength on the field.
Yes.
And I can communicate that to a player. Here's where you use line sync strike on the field, and I can communicate that to a player. But I'm not going to change the core teaching of it.
Yep. I like it. It kind of segues us perfectly into the developing skills for on-field football speed, because, now what does everyone call speed? So you just said it isn't really speed as much as it is acceleration, agility, explosiveness, right? Even power. Like, you're going to gain power out of this just by being fundamentally sound with your body. So as we start adding up those skills, the little pieces that you gain day by day throughout the progression that we talked about earlier, right? And so now we've developed these skills that show up on game night, right? We talk about, you said it earlier, when you got to situate around a football, now you're wearing pads and like everybody has cleats on and the gaps aren't real big. And that's where this starts to show up. So talk us through that, Joe, about just developing those skills for the on-field speed.
Well, you mentioned power, and Dale talks about extension plant and how critical that is. And it's the transfer of power in the change of direction, both in small changes where like a linear weave. You talk about weaving through cones, and you talk about getting into a tight space where the gap is, I start going forward and the gap's not exactly straight ahead. And it's a linear weave. Like that translates to the field. I got to weave into that. And I got to weave through the backside cut block, the backside backer flowing over the top and cut inside of him. And all of that all translates directly to the field. In our drills, you talked about being more powerful, being more explosive. And really, you're not more powerful and you're not more explosive. That comes from the weight room. And I've said before, I think that I would take speed training over the weight room. I think you should be trying to do both, but I would take speed training over the weight room, because what we get out of speed training, I can build up all the strength and explosiveness in the world, but if I don't have the proper mechanics on the field, I don't get the true benefit of it. And so it's, we talk about the line sync strike, that strike of the foot striking into the ground and keeping the line and all of that power. It's not that I'm more powerful, it's that I am actually using that power and it is transferring into the ground so that I am bursting forward. It's the lean of my body, with the body keeping the line, but having the lean and being able to move through traffic. It is a linebacker who doesn't, when a linebacker fills a gap, it's very rarely just like explode straight ahead, right?
Right.
When you see a really great linebacker play or safety play or something, it's usually like shuffle, burst type of thing. Like they have to see it and then explode. So there's a little read step and then seeing it happen and the gap opens up and they fill the open window, right? The difference between somebody who's been through this, the learned how to transfer speed, transfer the power from that shuffle, transfer that strike into the ground and burst forward. It's like you take the mush out of that linebacker. Think about a linebacker who kind of sees it and he kind of mushes into the gap. And like now, like an offensive lineman can get their hands on him. He doesn't have to really get clean hands on him, and he can just move him. Whereas when you see that really great burst, there's no mush. That's the explosiveness. You think about an engine. If you know anything about cars, and I don't know much, I used to know more, but transmissions are built for people who like a smooth ride, right? In a car that you buy at a dealership, a transmission is built for a car that, and not just the transmission, the whole thing is built for like mushy shifts and slower, like. And usually, like when you get like the chips and you get like the plates or whatever, all that sort of stuff, a lot of that is just designed to unlock the car's actual potential to transfer the power of the motor into the tires without all of the nice things that make a smooth ride when you're going to get groceries getting in the way. That's kind of what happens here, is like when I press the gas pedal in the car, on a car that's been modified, when I press the gas pedal, it,
Go time.
snaps. And when I press the gas pedal on my Equinox, it kind of mushes. Like it's not now. I've got a intake that I'm going to put on there, but because I need an Equinox that doesn't just mush.
High performance Equinox.
Yeah, I want a
here.
high performance Chevy Equinox. Here's the
Oh,
thing.
man.
Here's the thing. A Chevy Equinox. This is a 2018 Chevy Equinox. This is not a nice Chevy. I mean, it's a fine car, but it's not. It's 100,000 miles, whatever. I don't have like something. I don't have nice cars. I don't care. I just want to get where I'm going. But cars that I had like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, like they didn't have as much power as a 2018 Chevy Equinox. So
Right.
you unlock it a little bit, and get that. So that's what. But that's the thing is that's how this translates. I'll give you another one that's really easy to understand. A defensive back coming out of a back pedal. Okay, when a defensive back backpedals, and you watch a normal defensive back who backpedals. Now a lot of them go into a speed pedal immediately. We work on that with our technique, and we slow pedal. But when they realize, okay, it's a hitch route, I've got to drive downhill, or it's a quick throw, I've got to drive downhill, and they take 9 steps, and it's that slow down and then go, and it's so much time. And when you take this and you take all the extension plant and all of that, and you teach a kid to keep his line and keep his feet under his hips, and this even works like this translates to like a rain game, right? Like a really wet field,
Right.
on grass. And if he steps outside of the frame of his body, his foot slides. It's even mushier. But if he strikes into the ground, directly into the ground, there's no mush. And it's immediate going from back pedal to bam, strike and go. And he's going full speed. Same thing, I'm going lateral, and strike and go. And it's that translation, same thing on a back cut, right? How many steps does it take for a back to make a cut? Well, usually you've got a running back who's got a little bit of that already. But the faster that we can make that cut, that we can put a foot in the ground. We hear that, put a foot in the ground, right? All of this translates. This is what's supposed to translate to the field. That doesn't happen when all you work on is linear speed. That does not happen when all you're worried about is a 40-yard dash. This is stuff that actually translates to the field. This is movement on the field. This is that agility, that quickness. Quickness is a great word for it. That we call it fast twitch, but like every kid can develop this. It's not like some kids just have some kids do have like more, whatever fast twitch, but every kid can develop it, can get better at it. So, I mean, that's what we're talking about, translating all of this to how it translates to the field.
And you covered all the basics here. I want to go back and just touch on the fact that this does help every position group.
Yep.
Every position group has a skill that can get better if they can do it more efficiently, right? Like you said a little bit with the car. If I can press the gas pedal and it is go, we're talking manual transmission, dump the clutch, let's go, versus the smooth ride of that automatic transmission that you never really feel the gears change, but it takes longer for that power to get there. That's what we're trying to get, right? We're trying to put everybody in a manual transmission. I don't care if it is, you spoke of, a skip pull. Cool. We're going to bang out this skip and it is full power. We're headed downhill. We're getting through A gap to kick or wrap or whatever we're doing. If it's a DB and a back pedal, if it's a linebacker reading play, it's pull I got to follow. I'm going right now. You get rid of these false steps and all of the soft conversion from transition from standing still to going, all the things we do in nature to keep things kind of balanced. You get rid of that, right? Now we're dumping clutches and we're going. And this is following a down block, squeezing a down block. It's everything in football gets better when you take these principles, line, sync, strike, and all the other ones that gets more advanced from Dale's system, from athleticspeedmovement.com, and you teach your kids and they become self-aware. They go through the progressions. Now you're able to coach those little mechanics, right? Just kind of ties it all together. And now it becomes a skill they can use on Friday night. We talked about screen retrace drill just last week, which was yesterday. How hard is it for a defensive lineman who's in a 3-point stance with all of his might on his knuckles, and he's shooting out of there and he gets released and there's the quarterback, and now I'm telling him to put a foot in the ground and go the other way. That's like 5, 6, 8 steps for some kids, right? The ability to put 1, 2, 3, turn and go. We just got to have enough deceleration to get all that mass going the other way, changing momentum. But that's the point. We have to change. We have to apply that force to change your momentum, get all physical here, to get back to your screen rate. So every position can benefit from it. But you got to develop the bases. You got to go through the progression so you get these skills on the field on Friday nights.
Well, it's like I said, it's the line sync strike, and it's the full body. It's the line of the head through the shoulders, through the hips, the knees, the foot strike into the ground. It's the synchronization of the shoulder movement. The shoulders control the legs, and control the movement of the hips and the knees and everything. And then the strike, keeping of the foot strike into the ground. All of that has to work together. It's not something that you can just start talking about in your drill. You have to do the progression first and then translate it to the field. I think one of the biggest mistakes is doing all of that stuff and then not worrying about what happens on the field. I was talking to kids about, look at your body position right now. If your body position is this way, how are you going to transition? How are you going to change direction?
Yeah. Well, Joe, I think that checks all the boxes for our explosive and agility and speed and all other things episode here. Let's jump into our level up, and then we'll pay the bills after that.
Well, we've had almost 15 hours, I guess, 18 hours, something like that, to level up here. Yeah, 18 hours to level up. So we did get our tree up last night after the podcast. So
there we go.
We got the lights up. And maybe it was might have been right before the podcast, but we talked about the lights on the front of the house, and then we got the tree up. So we are getting, by the time that this comes out, we'll be fully decorated, but just getting all of the decorations up for the Christmas season, which of course we have, family all over the place. So we get all the house decorated, and then we travel for every.
Right. Decorate your own house and then go everywhere else.
Then leave. That's why we'll leave it up till the middle of January, just so we get to enjoy it.
Love it. Mine is kind of a cool one because it does a little bit fit with what we're talking today. My wife, as everyone knows, is a physical therapist. We run adaptable physical therapy here in Grove, Oklahoma. I didn't know growing up that I was imbalanced. We talk about having body awareness. I had no idea until basically I married my wife that I suffer from what is called upper and lower cross syndrome. So if you don't know what those are, basically my hips tilt forward at like 30 degrees from the top forward. So I basically walk around normally with like my butt sticking out. Had no idea. I remember being made fun of as a kid because of the way I stood and walked, and it's all this like actual thing that I have. And my shoulders stay rolled forward really, really bad. I had no idea any of this was like a diagnosable thing, but I have it. So I've been trying inconsistently, honestly, because I've gotten so used to it, and it's like it's overwhelming to think you're going to reset 37 years of terrible posture, but I have to get started at some point. And so you can see here I'm sitting in a new chair today. We put it together last night after the podcast, weirdly enough, because the chair I've been using for 4 or 5 years now just has a giant divot in the back of it, and so there was nothing there to correct my posture. As a matter of fact, it was making it worse and worse and worse. So we're finally taking steps to improving my posture and trying to fix this upper lower cross syndrome. So it starts with a chair, because that's my everyday thing that it was making it worse. We got to stop digging the hole at some point and then adding all the exercises and stuff in. So that's my level up, is I'm finally going to, after almost 40 years, try to fix my body, which is weird, but here we are.
It's the time.
It is the time. Sweet. If you stuck around till the end, I'm hoping you probably got something out of this episode. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who cares about the game like you do, or maybe needs to hear our level ups, or maybe needs to have faster, more athletic kids. Today, we talked about developing athleticism, football speed training progressions, why they're good, coaching running mechanics without being the speed guru, and in fact, ensuring people understand you are not, and you're hiring a professional, and developing skills for on-field football speed by using the other things we talked about. Last week, we talked about we get killed in the screen game. Next week, the episode is we can't convert on 3rd and long. We're going to look at some ways to get rid of that issue for you. Joe, let's pay the bills one more time and get out of here, man.
Oh, there we go. The difference between a defense that wins championships and one that gives up big plays every Friday night isn't talent, it's the system. If you don't have a real system in place, you spend every week chasing problems. Players are confused, your coaches aren't aligned, and your defense is reacting instead of attacking. I did already read this, didn't I? So get a true defensive system. Get the free download. Everything that you do is going to be needs to be in a system. It needs to be in a progression. It needs to be linked together. Just kind of like the stuff we've been talking about here. Your defense needs to be the same way. So what you need to know to build your ultimate defensive football coaching system is the free download. You can get it at footballdefense.com. It is a blueprint for simplifying your defense, getting your players to buy in, and taking control of the game for your football team. Go get it now at footballdefense.com.
Love it. And just like we said the whole episode, I remind you go to athleticspeedmovement.com. It's a great time to get started right now. As you hear this, you've got Christmas break coming up if you're a teacher and coach. Excuse me. Gives you some time to look through, learn the PDFs, learn the fundamentals like Joe's talking, the line, sink, strike. What does that mean? How do you coach it? Where are your eyes at during these different drills? Go through and look how goofy the first 4 weeks looks, right? Look at what the drills are. Why is Joe saying what looks goofy and it looks different? Go check out weeks 6 through 9. And hey, this is where we're headed. Get an understanding of where all of this is going to kind of round out and bring your kids up to speed. See what I did there? athleticspeedmovement.com. Sign up today. Yes, you'll love yourself for it.
And if you just, by the way, athleticspeedmovement.com, you're going to get the Secrets of Speed free download. If you just want to go ahead and get Athletic Speed and Movement, if you've already gotten the free download and you can't find it, go to the JDFB store, go to joedanielfootball.com/store. And if you're getting in before the next couple of weeks, then you'll be able to get, or actually before the next few days, you'll be able to get it there. I'll be emailing about it as well. So make sure it's on our email list. But if you want to get it real soon, because like everything else, 2026, it's going up.
Yep. Social media wise, I am at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter /X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting.com at gmail.com. And then check out the YouTube. Joe, where are you at, sir?
I am at joedanielfootball.com. Joe at joedanielfootball.com is the email address. And then facebook.com/joedanielfootball, at joedanielfootball on TikTok and Instagram. And then X is at footballinfo.
Love it. The podcast is at the FBCP on
and YouTube. Forgot. That's the one I kept forgetting. YouTube. Get us on the YouTube. joedanielfootball.com/YouTube.
Come watch.
You can watch the podcast.
Yeah. Watch our air quotes in live time. It'd be great. See my new chair.
Yep. Good looking chair.
This is your first time listening to the Football Coaching Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher, especially Spotify and Apple Podcast. If you've been listening for a while, please do leave a review, especially at those two places. That's what helps us spread the word the most. Like I said yesterday, if you're somewhere else, let us know where you're listening and leave us a review there as well. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. And remember, coach simple, play fast, win.